Okay, let's continue talking about questions. And today we're going to focus on writing questions. When you write a question, you begin with a capital letter and end with a question mark. So here are our examples. Where is our scout meeting today? What craft will we do today? So notice how the questions that we have written begin with a capital letter and end with a question mark. All complete sentences end with some type of punctuation, but if it's a question, it ends with a question mark. It will never end with anything other than a question mark. If it asks you something, it must end with a question mark. So here are my two examples of questions. My first question was, why do people go to the zoo? And do you want to go to the zoo? So the first sentence asks why people go to the zoo. It starts with the question word why. And then our second one asks if you want to go. So it starts with a verb and it ends with a question mark. So I know it is a question. It is asking me something. So let's look at our examples here. And it tells us writing questions. Look at each pair of questions and tell which one is written correctly. So it's very important that your questions begin with capital letters and end with question marks. If it asks you something, it ends with a question mark always. So let's read number 1. Why is the store closed? So both of these sentences say the same thing, but only one of them is written correctly. Which one is it? If you said that it is this one, then you would be correct. It has a question mark. It's asking me something, and it ends with a question mark. This one doesn't. This one ends with a period, and questions do not end with periods. Number 2, who was the first president? This one also says the same thing. Who was the first president? Which one is written correctly? If you said this one, you would be correct. It has a capital at the beginning. It has a question mark at the end. It is written correctly. This one right here is missing a capital at the beginning of the question. All sentences, questions, statements, or commands, they all begin with a capital letter. Number 3, where did you put the keys? So both of those say the same thing. Which one is written correctly? If you said this top one, you would be correct. It is written correctly. It begins with a capital letter and it ends with a question mark. This one down here has no punctuation at all. It's a question. It must end with a question mark. Number 4, how much do tickets cost? So this is asking us something. Which one of these is written correctly? If you said this one, you would be correct. How do I know? Well, begins with a capital letter and ends with a question mark. It's a question. How much do tickets cost? It's a question. It's asking me something, so it must end with a question mark. And number 5 says, can Alex come with us? So which one of these is written correctly? If you said this one, you are correct. It has a capital at the beginning because we know all sentence types begin with a capital letter, and it's asking us something, so it ends with a question mark. So I want you to practice asking simple questions to your partner or person helping you complete your homework. And then I want you to come back to this video so you can listen to the instructions for this page. Our homework tells us a sentence that asks something is called a question. A question begins with a capital letter and ends with a question mark. It asks us to fix the mistakes in these sentences and to use our proofreading marks. So this little arrow pointing up tells us that we need to add something. And these 3 lines tell us to capitalize something. So in our example, did you water the plants? I have 3 lines under did because this needs to be capital. It's the beginning of a sentence. And they put an arrow under at the end because they need to add a question mark. So you're going to do the same thing for numbers 1 through 5. Put your proofreading marks if it needs a capital or if you need to add a question mark.